Part 1, The Empire Without an Emperor. The day Rome was sold, how an empire went to the highest bidder. Imagine waking up one morning to discover that the greatest empire on earth had no ruler. No emperor. No government. No clear future. Then imagine something even more unbelievable. Instead of choosing the next ruler through law, tradition, or the will of the Roman people, the soldiers guarding the imperial palace decided to sell the entire empire to the highest bidder. Not metaphorically. Literally. The throne of Rome, the seat once occupied by Augustus, Trajan, Hadrian, Marcus Aurelius, and countless other emperors, would become the prize in an auction. It sounds like fiction. It sounds like the plot of a Hollywood movie. But it really happened. For one shocking day in Roman history, the fate of nearly 70 million people rested not on justice, honor, or military glory, but on who could offer the largest pile of gold. How did the most powerful empire the world had ever seen fall so low? To answer that question, we must return to one of the darkest moments in Roman history. A moment when fear replaced loyalty. When greed replaced duty. And when Rome itself nearly destroyed everything it had built over centuries. Because before the empire was sold, an emperor had to die. The year was AD 193. Rome still ruled an enormous world stretching from the cold forests of Britain to the scorching deserts of Syria. Its roads connected continents. Its armies were feared by every neighboring kingdom. Its cities overflowed with wealth gathered from every corner of the known world. To outsiders, the Roman Empire looked invincible. But appearances can be deceiving. Behind the marble temples and magnificent forums, cracks had already begun to spread through the foundations of imperial power. The greatest threat no longer came from barbarian tribes or foreign kings. It came from within. And the man responsible for much of this decay was the emperor who had ruled before these events. Commodus. The son of Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius had been remembered as the philosopher emperor, a ruler respected for wisdom, discipline, and justice. His reign represented the final years of Rome's golden age. Many Romans believed no emperor could ever equal him. Sadly, they were right. His son proved to be almost everything his father was not. Commodus inherited the largest empire in history without having to earn it. Instead of strengthening Rome's institutions, he indulged himself in luxury, spectacle, and personal glory. He believed he was the living reincarnation of Hercules. He dressed in lion skins. He carried clubs through the palace. He renamed months after himself. He even fought as a gladiator inside the Colosseum, not because Rome needed inspiration, but because he desperately craved applause. For ordinary Romans, these spectacles were entertaining. For senators, generals, and administrators, they were humiliating. The Emperor of Rome had become an actor playing the role of a god. Meanwhile, corruption spread throughout the government. Experienced officials were replaced by favorites. Military discipline weakened. Political rivals disappeared. Fear became the currency of survival. Every noble family wondered whether tomorrow they would still be alive. The Senate slowly lost what little influence it still possessed. But perhaps the greatest mistake Commodus ever made was empowering one group above everyone else. The Praetorian Guard. Originally created as elite bodyguards for the emperor, the Praetorians had once represented discipline and loyalty. They protected the palace, guarded the imperial family, maintained order inside Rome. Over time, however, they discovered something dangerous. They held swords within the capital. The legions stationed on distant frontiers were weeks, or even months, away. If anyone could decide who lived or died inside Rome, it was them. And they knew it. Every emperor became increasingly dependent upon their loyalty. Every ambitious commander sought their support. Every political conspiracy eventually passed through the Praetorian camp. Their power grew with every passing decade. And with power came greed. By the end of Commodus' reign, they expected enormous gifts of money whenever a new emperor took power. Their loyalty had become something that could be bought. The empire had unknowingly planted the seeds of its own disaster. On the final day of the year AD 192, everything exploded. Commodus was assassinated. Not on a battlefield. Not during a rebellion. Inside his own palace. The conspiracy involved members of his inner circle who believed Rome could no longer survive under his rule. When poison failed to kill him quickly enough, a wrestler entered his chambers. The emperor struggled. But he never escaped. By nightfall, Commodus was dead. Rome had lost its emperor. For many senators, it felt like liberation. Perhaps now, they thought, Rome could return to the virtues that had made it great. They needed a man respected by both the Senate and the army. Someone honest. Someone disciplined. Someone who placed Rome above himself. Their choice fell upon an elderly senator with an outstanding military reputation. Publius Helvius Pertinax. Unlike Commodus, Pertinax had earned every step of his remarkable career. He had not been born into immense wealth. His father had been a freed slave. Through talent, discipline, and military success, Pertinax climbed higher than almost anyone believed possible. He governed provinces, led armies, earned the admiration of soldiers. Most importantly, he understood responsibility. When the Senate offered him the throne, Pertinax reportedly hesitated. He knew exactly how dangerous the position had become. Being emperor no longer guaranteed glory. It often guaranteed assassination. Still, Rome needed leadership. And he accepted. For the first time in years, hope returned to the capital. Citizens believed discipline would replace extravagance. Government would replace chaos. Honor would replace fear. But they underestimated how deeply corruption had spread. Especially within the Praetorian Guard. The treasury Commodus left behind was nearly empty. Years of extravagant spending had drained Rome's finances. Pertinax faced impossible choices. He needed to restore order. Reduce unnecessary expenses. Repair the empire's economy. And rebuild military discipline. These reforms made sense. For honest officials, they inspired confidence. For corrupt men, they represented disaster. The Praetorians quickly became furious. They expected enormous cash rewards for supporting the new emperor. Instead, Pertinax offered only modest payments. Even worse, he demanded discipline. No more abuse. No more extortion. No more acting like masters of Rome. To soldiers who had grown rich through privilege, these reforms felt like betrayal. Whispers spread throughout the barracks. He doesn't respect us. He wants to weaken us. He will take everything away. The emperor believed he could restore discipline through leadership. But discipline cannot return overnight after years of corruption. Especially when armed men believe they are more powerful than the government itself. Only 86 days after taking the throne, everything collapsed. On a cold morning in March AD 193, hundreds of Praetorian guards abandoned their posts. Instead of protecting the emperor, they marched toward the imperial palace. No legion stood between them and their target. No defensive walls slowed their advance. The emperor's own protectors had become executioners. Pertinax was warned that angry soldiers were approaching. Friends begged him to flee. Others urged him to hide. Some even advised him to buy their loyalty with gold. He refused. Running would shame the office of emperor. Bribery would destroy everything he stood for. Instead, he chose courage. Standing before armed soldiers, Pertinax attempted one final speech. He reminded them of their oath, their honor, their duty to Rome. For a brief moment, some soldiers hesitated. Perhaps the speech was working. Perhaps reason would prevail. Then one man charged forward. Within seconds, the emperor was surrounded. Spears struck. Swords flashed. Pertinax fell to the ground. The emperor of Rome lay dead inside his own palace, murdered by the very men sworn to defend him. His severed head was placed upon a spear. The soldiers marched triumphantly through the streets. The citizens watched in stunned silence. Rome had entered a nightmare unlike anything it had experienced before. No emperor. No succession. No plan. Only armed men holding the heart of the empire hostage. And inside the Praetorian camp, an idea emerged that would forever stain Roman history. An idea so shocking that even many of the soldiers could hardly believe it. If they could kill an emperor, why not choose the next one themselves? Or better yet, why not sell the throne to whoever offered the highest price? The greatest empire on earth was about to go up for auction. Part 2, the empire sold at auction. The highest bidder for the greatest empire on earth. The gates of the Praetorian camp slammed shut. Outside, the city of Rome trembled. Inside, several thousand heavily armed soldiers had just murdered the emperor, and now possessed something no army had ever owned before. The power to decide who would rule the Roman world. For centuries, the Roman Empire had prided itself on law, tradition, and the dignity of imperial succession. Even during times of chaos, there had always been at least the appearance of legitimacy. This time, even that illusion disappeared. There was no Senate debate. No assembly of citizens. No consultation with the legions guarding the frontiers. Only the Praetorian Guard. Only greed. Only opportunity. The body of Pertinax was still warm when conversations began. What now? Some officers argued that one of their own should become emperor. Others suggested choosing a respected senator who would reward them generously. But another idea quickly gained support. Why choose one candidate when several wealthy Romans might compete? Why accept one reward when they could force men to outbid each other? One soldier reportedly laughed. If Rome belongs to us today, let Rome pay for itself. It was a sentence that perfectly captured how far the empire had fallen. News spread through Rome with astonishing speed. The emperor had been murdered. The Praetorians controlled the capital. No one knew what would happen next. The Senate entered emergency session. Many senators feared they would be the next victims. Some wanted to organize resistance. Others argued for negotiation. Most simply wanted to survive. Meanwhile, ordinary Romans filled the streets. Merchants closed their shops. Temples became crowded with people praying for peace. Parents hurried their children indoors. Everyone remembered the civil wars of previous generations. No one wanted to watch Rome burn again. Rumors multiplied by the hour. Some claimed the German legions were already marching. Others insisted the eastern provinces had declared independence. No one knew the truth. But everyone understood one thing. The empire was leaderless. And that made every ambitious man dangerous. Not far from the Praetorian camp lived one of Rome's wealthiest senators. His name was Didius Julianus. He was 60 years old. Experienced. Educated. Respected in many political circles. He had governed provinces. Commanded armies. Served Rome faithfully for decades. No historian describes him as an evil man. But ambition can change good men. When Julianus heard what had happened, he realized something extraordinary. For the first time in Roman history, the imperial throne had no owner. Friends urged caution. This is madness. The soldiers are killers. No amount of money is worth your life. Julianus listened. Then ignored them. If fortune had opened the greatest opportunity of his life, he intended to seize it. At nearly the same moment, another man reached exactly the same conclusion. Titus Flavius Sulpicianus. Unlike Julianus, Sulpicianus already had an advantage. He was inside the Praetorian camp. As the city prefect and father-in-law of the murdered Pertinax, he had entered hoping to calm the soldiers. Instead, he found himself negotiating for the empire. The discussions quickly changed. No longer were they about justice. No longer about Rome. No longer about protecting the state. They became negotiations over money. The Praetorians demanded guarantees. Gold. Bonuses. Privileges. Protection from punishment. Sulpicianus promised generous rewards. The soldiers seemed interested. Perhaps the crisis was nearly over. Then, a shout echoed beyond the camp walls. Didius Julianus had arrived. The gates remained closed. The soldiers refused to admit him. So Julianus did something almost unbelievable. Standing outside the walls, he began shouting offers over them. Ancient historians describe the scene with a mixture of disbelief and disgust. Inside the camp, Sulpicianus increased his payment. Outside, Julianus offered more. One officer climbed the walls to relay the numbers. Back and forth they went, like merchants bargaining over livestock. Except the prize was the Roman Empire. Each Praetorian soldier expected a personal payment. Thousands of men. Thousands of fortunes. Every increase made the soldiers smile wider. Every new offer raised the price. The empire had become an auction. Imagine witnessing this scene as an ordinary Roman. Beyond those stone walls, the fate of millions was being decided. Not through wisdom. Not through courage. Not through merit. But through wealth. Every principle that had once defined Rome was disappearing before their eyes. The Republic had fallen centuries earlier. Now even the empire itself seemed to have lost its soul. The soldiers no longer asked, "Who is worthy?" They asked only, "Who pays more?" Finally, Julianus made his final offer. He promised each Praetorian guard an astonishing sum, 25,000 sesterces. It was a fortune. Enough to transform the lives of ordinary soldiers forever. The amount exceeded almost anything they had expected. Silence filled the camp. Then came the decision. The gates slowly opened. Julianus entered. Moments later, the Praetorian guard lifted him upon their shields and proclaimed him Emperor of Rome. Not because he had won a battle. Not because the Senate had chosen him. Not because the people supported him. Because he had offered the most money. The greatest empire in the world had officially been sold. The Senate now faced an impossible choice. Reject Julianus. And risk immediate slaughter. Accept him. And destroy the dignity of Rome forever. The Praetorians surrounded the Senate house. Everyone understood the message. Vote correctly. Or die. One by one, terrified senators gave their approval. Some lowered their eyes in shame. Others signed the decree with trembling hands. Officially, Didius Julianus became emperor. Unofficially, everyone knew the truth. He had purchased the throne. But outside the Senate, Rome erupted. Crowds filled the streets. Citizens shouted insults as Julianus passed. Thief! Traitor! You bought what belongs to Rome. Some threw stones. Others cursed the Praetorians openly. Never before had an emperor been greeted with such hatred on the very first day of his reign. Julianus attempted to calm the crowd. He promised stability. He promised prosperity. He promised generous reforms. No one listened. Because everyone understood the real problem. If one man could buy the empire today, another man could simply take it tomorrow. The throne was no longer sacred. It had become a commodity. Far from Rome, along the freezing frontiers of the empire, messengers rode day and night. Across the Danube, across Syria, across Britain. Every legion received the same astonishing news. The emperor was dead. Rome had been sold. The Praetorian Guard had chosen a buyer instead of a leader. Hardened legionaries, men who had spent decades defending the empire against barbarians, could scarcely believe what they were hearing. Many thought the reports were false. Surely Rome could never sink so low. But when confirmation arrived, disbelief turned into fury. Generals gathered their officers. Veterans slammed their fists against tables. Centurions openly cursed the Praetorian Guard. One officer reportedly declared, "If gold makes emperors now, then Rome deserves better than cowards hiding behind walls." Across the empire, 3 men reached the same conclusion. Julianus would never be accepted. And if Rome needed saving, they would save it themselves. Each commanded powerful armies. Each believed destiny had chosen him. Each prepared to march toward the eternal city. Within weeks, 3 rival emperors would be proclaimed. And the empire that had just been sold would soon be drowned in civil war. Part 3, 3 Emperors, 1 Empire. The generals who refused to accept a bought throne. The news reached the frontiers like a thunderclap. From Britain's rain-soaked forts, to the burning deserts of Syria, to the frozen banks of the Danube, the message was always the same. Rome had sold itself. The emperor had been murdered. The throne had been purchased. And the Praetorian Guard expected the rest of the empire to simply accept it. But they had made one fatal mistake. They believed Rome was the empire. In reality, the empire belonged to the legions. For nearly 2 centuries, Roman emperors had learned one unbreakable lesson. An emperor might wear a purple robe. He might possess the imperial palace. He might command the Senate. But without the loyalty of the army, he possessed nothing. Every frontier was guarded by battle-hardened soldiers. These men had spent years fighting Germanic tribes along the Rhine, crossing icy rivers on the Danube, or defending the eastern provinces from the powerful Parthian Empire. They endured freezing winters, scorching summers, hunger, disease, and constant danger. While they bled for Rome, the Praetorian Guard lived comfortably inside the capital. Better food. Better pay. Safer duties. Many legionaries already resented them. Now that resentment became pure hatred. One by one, the governors commanding Rome's largest armies received confirmation of the unbelievable events. The first was Septimius Severus. He governed the province of Pannonia along the Danube frontier. Severus was 50 years old. Calm. Disciplined. Intelligent. Unlike many ambitious politicians, he rarely wasted words. His soldiers respected him because he shared their hardships. He marched with them. Ate with them. Endured freezing campaigns beside them. He understood the army because he had spent his life inside it. When the messenger finished reading the news from Rome, silence filled Severus' headquarters. Finally, he asked a simple question. "Is this report confirmed?" The answer came immediately. Yes. The emperor had truly been bought. For several moments, Severus said nothing. Then he looked toward the officers surrounding him. If this is true, Rome no longer has an emperor. Almost immediately, his officers began speaking over one another. The Praetorians have disgraced the empire. The Senate has become their prisoner. Julianus has no right to rule. Many expected Severus to hesitate. Marching against Rome meant civil war. Civil war meant Roman soldiers killing Roman soldiers. It was every commander's nightmare. But another nightmare frightened Severus even more. If the Praetorian Guard could choose emperors whenever they wished, no ruler would ever be safe again. The empire itself would become nothing more than a prize for armed mercenaries. That could not be allowed. Within days, the Danube legions made their decision. Thousands of soldiers gathered beneath their standards. Trumpets echoed across the military camp. The officers stood in perfect formation. Then, the army raised Septimius Severus upon a shield. A tradition reserved for kings and emperors. The soldiers roared with one voice. Hail Caesar! Hail Augustus! Hail Emperor! Severus accepted. Not with celebration, but with determination. He knew exactly what this meant. There would be no peaceful solution now. Only war. Yet Severus was not alone. Nearly 1,500 miles away, in the wealthy eastern provinces, another powerful commander reached the same conclusion. Pescennius Niger, governor of Syria. Unlike Severus, Niger was already famous throughout much of the empire. Charismatic, confident, an experienced general adored by his troops. The eastern cities admired him. Merchants trusted him. Many senators secretly believed he would make an excellent emperor. When news of Julianus reached Antioch, crowds reportedly demanded that Niger take the throne. At first he hesitated. Civil war would devastate the empire. But every new report from Rome convinced him that Julianus possessed no legitimacy. Soon, the eastern legions also proclaimed their commander emperor. Now there were two. Then came the third. Across the sea in Britain, Governor Clodius Albinus commanded 3 powerful legions. Britain produced some of Rome's toughest soldiers. Years of fighting northern tribes had hardened them into experienced veterans. When Albinus heard that 2 rival emperors had already emerged, his own officers became nervous. If they waited, someone else would seize absolute power. If they acted, they still had a chance. After days of discussion, the British legions proclaimed Clodius Albinus emperor as well. Now the impossible had become reality. 3 different armies. 3 different emperors. 1 Roman Empire. Back in Rome, Didius Julianus received increasingly alarming reports. Severus has declared himself emperor. Hours later, Niger has declared himself emperor. Then, Albinus has accepted the purple. Julianus stared silently at the dispatches. His advisors attempted optimism. They are too far away. They will fight each other first. The Praetorian Guard will protect you. But Julianus understood military reality. The Praetorians numbered only a few thousand men. Most had never fought a real campaign. The frontier legions had spent decades at war. If even one great army reached Rome, everything could collapse. Desperate to strengthen his position, Julianus tried to win support with money. More bonuses. More promises. More gifts. He rewarded senators. Offered promotions. Distributed gold wherever loyalty seemed uncertain. But gold could not erase shame. Even those accepting his rewards questioned his legitimacy. Meanwhile, the Roman people openly mocked him. Every public appearance became dangerous. Crowds shouted insults. Children laughed. Citizens refused to cheer. An emperor who had bought the throne discovered something money could never purchase. Respect. Far away, Severus had already begun moving. Unlike his rivals, he acted immediately. Speed would become his greatest weapon. His officers asked whether they should spend weeks gathering supplies. No. Should they wait for reinforcements? No. Should they negotiate with Rome first? Again. No. Every day Julianus remained alive gave him more time to prepare. Every day increased the risk that Niger or Albinus would reach Italy first. Severus intended to strike before anyone expected. His army crossed rivers, passed through mountain valleys, marched across the Balkans with astonishing speed. Thousands of soldiers covered distances that seemed impossible. Villages watched in amazement as endless columns of Roman troops advanced toward Italy. Word spread faster than the army itself. Severus is coming. As Severus approached, something remarkable happened. Cities opened their gates voluntarily. Provincial governors switched sides. Military units abandoned Julianus without a fight. Many officials realized that resisting Severus would be suicidal. Others genuinely believed he represented Rome's best hope. The momentum became unstoppable. With every passing day, Severus grew stronger. Julianus grew weaker. Inside the Praetorian camp, confidence finally began to crack. Some soldiers still believed their walls could protect them. Others quietly packed their belongings. Veterans understood the difference between palace guards and frontier legions. One had spent years polishing armor for ceremonies. The other had spent years killing enemies in brutal campaigns. Deep down, many Praetorians already knew the truth. If Severus reached Rome, the auctioneers of the empire would finally face the soldiers who had actually defended it. And this time, no amount of gold would save them. Part 4, The Fall of the Man Who Bought an Empire. When Rome turned against its own emperor. Only 66 days earlier, Didius Julianus had walked into the Praetorian camp believing he had won the greatest prize in the world. Now, every sunrise brought another terrifying report. Septimius Severus had crossed another province. Another city had surrendered. Another governor had abandoned the emperor. The map of the empire was changing almost daily. Not because of great battles, but because almost no one wanted to fight for Julianus. He had purchased a throne. He had never earned an empire. Inside the imperial palace, panic slowly replaced confidence. Messengers rushed through marble corridors at every hour. Secret meetings lasted late into the night. Every advisor offered a different solution. Raise another army. Buy more loyalty. Negotiate with Severus. Assassinate him before he reaches Italy. Julianus listened to them all. None offered certainty. Every option depended on one thing he no longer possessed: time. Outside the palace, Rome had become a city of whispers. Markets still opened. Temples still welcomed worshippers. The great forum remained crowded. But conversations were no longer about trade or politics. Everyone asked the same question: when will Severus arrive? Some believed he would appear within days. Others imagined his army already marching through northern Italy. Rumors spread faster than truth. 1 hour people claimed he commanded 50,000 men. The next, they insisted he had 100,000. The numbers hardly mattered. Fear was growing. Julianus still hoped that the Praetorian Guard would save him. After all, they had made him emperor. Surely they would defend their own decision. He summoned their commanders. You swore to protect me. The officers bowed respectfully. But respect was not loyalty. Many of them had already begun exchanging secret messages with Severus. They understood something Julianus refused to accept. If Severus won, the men who had murdered Pertinax would become his first targets. Saving Julianus no longer seemed possible. Saving themselves did. Desperate, Julianus ordered the Praetorian Guard to prepare the city's defenses. The order exposed just how unprepared they truly were. The Praetorians were elite guards. Not engineers. Not campaign veterans. Many had never built military fortifications before. Some struggled to dig trenches correctly. Others erected weak barricades that experienced legionaries could easily destroy. Citizens watched in disbelief. The soldiers who claimed to control the empire now looked uncertain and inexperienced. The contrast could not have been greater. Severus' legions had spent years building forts on hostile frontiers. The Praetorians had spent years guarding palace gates. Meanwhile, Severus continued advancing with astonishing discipline. His officers forbade looting. His soldiers paid for supplies whenever possible. Cities that welcomed the army were left untouched. This was not merely military strategy. It was political theater. Severus wanted Italy to see him not as a conqueror, but as Rome's liberator. Every peaceful surrender strengthened his reputation. Every city that opened its gates weakened Julianus further. Then came one of the most brilliant political moves of Severus' entire campaign. He sent letters directly to the Praetorian Guard. Not threats. Promises. He announced that any soldier who had not personally participated in Pertinax's murder would be spared. Only the killers would face punishment. The message spread through the camp like wildfire. Immediately, distrust poisoned the guard. Who had actually struck the emperor? Who would Severus punish? Who might betray their comrades to save themselves? Friendship dissolved into suspicion. Confidence collapsed. Without fighting a single battle, Severus had begun destroying the Praetorian Guard from within. The Senate now faced another impossible decision. Weeks earlier, armed soldiers had forced them to recognize Julianus. Now another army approached the city. Should they remain loyal? Or abandon the emperor they had never truly chosen? Secret meetings multiplied. Many senators quietly admitted the obvious. Julianus had no future. Supporting him now meant sharing his fate. One elderly senator reportedly said, "Rome does not need another civil war over a man no one wanted." The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. As Severus entered northern Italy, resistance simply disappeared. Town after town surrendered. Military detachments switched allegiance. Even imperial officials began welcoming him. It became increasingly clear that Severus would reach Rome almost unopposed. Back inside the palace, Julianus finally understood the truth. The empire had abandoned him. Not because he lacked intelligence. Not because he lacked experience. But because his authority had been born from greed rather than legitimacy. No amount of gold could erase that stain. In one final attempt to survive, Julianus proposed something extraordinary. He suggested sharing imperial power with Severus. Two emperors ruling together. Perhaps compromise could prevent bloodshed. Messengers rushed from Rome carrying the proposal. When they reached Severus, he barely considered it. His answer was immediate. No. There could be no partnership with a man who had purchased the throne. The rejection shattered the last illusion. Julianus was alone. The Praetorians no longer believed they could win. The Senate no longer believed he should remain emperor. The people had never accepted him. Even members of the palace staff quietly prepared for a new ruler. Every hallway felt emptier than before. Every conversation stopped when Julianus entered the room. Isolation surrounded him. The most powerful man in the world had become its loneliest. Finally, on June 1, AD 193, the Senate assembled one last time. This meeting would determine the future of the empire. Outside, the Praetorian Guard waited nervously. Inside, the senators voted. Not under pressure from Julianus, but under the shadow of Severus' approaching army. The decision was unanimous. Didius Julianus was stripped of the imperial title. Septimius Severus was recognized as the lawful emperor. Julianus was condemned to death. The decree was delivered almost immediately. According to the ancient historian Cassius Dio, Julianus spent his final moments in despair. He reportedly asked a heartbreaking question. But what evil have I done? Whom have I killed? Perhaps, in his own mind, he truly believed he had committed no crime. He had simply accepted an opportunity. He had offered money. The Praetorian Guard had accepted. Yet history judged him differently. Because some actions permanently damaged the dignity of a nation. Buying Rome was one of them. Moments later, an executioner entered the room. There was no dramatic battle. No final speech before cheering crowds. No glorious last stand. The man who had bought the Roman Empire died quietly inside the palace. His reign had lasted just 66 days. Only days later, Septimius Severus approached the Eternal City. The gates opened. No siege. No great battle. No desperate resistance. Rome welcomed its new emperor. But Severus had not forgotten who had created this crisis. The Praetorian Guard assembled outside the city under orders to greet him. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by battle-hardened legionaries. Severus ordered every Praetorian to surrender his weapons immediately. One by one, swords hit the ground. Shields followed. Armor was removed. The men who had believed themselves masters of Rome stood powerless before the frontier army. Then came the punishment. Every member of the old Praetorian Guard was dismissed from service. Those directly responsible for Pertinax's murder were hunted down and executed. The once feared guard ceased to exist. Severus replaced them entirely with loyal veterans from his own legions. For the first time in decades, the emperor's protectors were soldiers who had earned their place on the battlefield. Not through politics. Not through bribery. But through war. Rome had finally regained an emperor. But peace had not returned. Because two rival rulers still commanded enormous armies. Pescennius Niger ruled the east. Clodius Albinus controlled Britain. The auction was over. Now the true struggle for the Roman Empire was about to begin. And the bloodiest battles were still ahead. Part 5, The Man Who Saved Rome. Or Changed It Forever. The legacy of the emperor who ended the auction of an empire. Rome celebrated. The nightmare seemed over. The man who had bought the empire was dead. The Praetorian Guard had been disarmed. A respected general now wore the purple robe. Citizens poured into the streets. Temples filled with prayers of thanksgiving. The Senate congratulated itself for surviving yet another political catastrophe. For a brief moment, it seemed as though Rome had escaped disaster. But Septimius Severus understood something few others did. The empire had not been saved. It had only survived its first crisis. The real war was only beginning. Far to the east, Pescennius Niger refused to recognize Severus as emperor. He had been proclaimed Augustus by the powerful eastern legions. The wealthy provinces of Syria, Egypt, and Asia Minor supported him. He controlled enormous resources. Some of the richest cities in the Roman world stood behind his cause. Most importantly, he believed he possessed the stronger claim. From his perspective, Severus was simply another ambitious general marching on Rome. Neither man intended to surrender. Civil war became inevitable. Before beginning the campaign, Severus made one of the smartest political decisions of his career. He knew fighting two rivals at once would be disastrous. So he sent a generous offer to Clodius Albinus in Britain. Instead of declaring him an enemy, Severus offered him the title of Caesar, the official heir to the empire. It was a masterstroke. Albinus accepted. For now, Britain remained quiet. One enemy had been turned into an ally without a single battle. That allowed Severus to focus entirely on the east. The campaign against Niger was swift but brutal. Across Asia Minor, Roman fought Roman. Legion fought legion. Men who had once served under the same eagle standards now killed one another in battles that neither side had ever imagined. The empire was bleeding itself. At Cyzicus, Severus gained his first important victory. Then came another battle near Nicaea. Again, Niger's forces retreated. Each defeat weakened his support. Cities that had once welcomed him began opening their gates to Severus instead. Momentum had shifted. The final confrontation came near the city of Issus. It was the same region where, more than 5 centuries earlier, Alexander the Great had defeated the Persian king Darius. History seemed to repeat itself. Thousands of Roman soldiers clashed beneath dark skies. The fighting lasted for hours. Shields crashed together. Pylons darkened the air. The screams of wounded men echoed across the battlefield. By sunset, the outcome was clear. Severus had won. Pescennius Niger fled eastward. But there was nowhere left to hide. He was eventually captured while attempting to escape. Soon afterward, he was executed. One rival had fallen. With the east secured, Severus returned to Rome stronger than ever. His victories brought wealth. Captured treasure poured into the imperial treasury. The people welcomed their emperor as a conqueror. But victory changed him. Power always does. The cautious commander who had marched on Rome to restore order now ruled with increasing confidence and increasing severity. He trusted the army more than the Senate. Perhaps he had good reason. The Senate had accepted Julianus when threatened. Many senators had changed sides whenever it suited them. The legions, however, had carried Severus to power. He never forgot that. Then came the final betrayal. Clodius Albinus realized he had been deceived. The title of Caesar had merely bought Severus time. Once the east was secure, Severus no longer needed an ally in Britain. The fragile peace collapsed. Albinus declared himself emperor. His legions crossed from Britain into Gaul. The empire once again divided into 2 armed camps. This time, the war would decide everything. In February AD 197, near the city of Lugdunum in Gaul, modern-day Lyon, 2 of the largest Roman armies ever assembled faced one another. Some ancient writers claimed more than 100,000 soldiers fought in the battle. Whether those numbers are exact or not, the scale was enormous. It was one of the greatest civil battles in Roman history. At first, Albinus' forces fought brilliantly. Severus' left wing began to collapse. For several terrifying moments, it appeared the emperor himself might lose everything. Some soldiers even believed Severus had been killed. Panic spread across parts of his army. Then, everything changed. His reserve cavalry struck at exactly the right moment. The exhausted troops of Albinus began to break. One section collapsed. Then another. Soon the retreat became a rout. Thousands died trying to escape. The battlefield was covered with Roman dead. When it was over, there was only one emperor left. Clodius Albinus either took his own life, or was killed by pursuing soldiers. Ancient historians disagree, but all agree on what happened afterward. His body was treated without mercy. His supporters faced execution. Many noble families lost their fortunes. Others disappeared forever. The civil wars had ended. Yet the cost had been staggering. Entire provinces had been devastated. Countless experienced soldiers were dead. Rome had defeated itself. With no rivals remaining, Septimius Severus stood alone, master of the Roman world. Unlike many emperors before him, he understood exactly who had given him power. Not the Senate, not the aristocracy, the army. So he rewarded it generously. Soldiers received higher pay. Their legal rights expanded. Military service became even more prestigious. Veterans gained greater privileges. At the same time, the Senate lost much of the influence it had once claimed. From this point onward, every ambitious Roman understood one lesson above all others. If you wanted to become emperor, you needed the army. Everything else came second. Before his death years later, Severus reportedly gave his sons one final piece of advice. 3 short sentences. Words that would echo throughout the rest of Roman history. Live in harmony. Enrich the soldiers. Despise everyone else. Whether every word was recorded exactly as spoken is impossible to know. But the message reflected his reign perfectly. The military had become the foundation of imperial power. And future emperors would follow that path. Some successfully, many disastrously. Looking back, the auction of AD 193 lasted only a single day. Didius Julianus ruled for just 66 days. Yet those few weeks changed Rome forever. The illusion that emperors ruled through tradition had been shattered. Everyone now knew the truth. The empire belonged to whoever could command the strongest army. Gold had briefly bought the throne. But in the end, only disciplined legions could keep it. History often remembers great victories, magnificent monuments, brilliant generals. But sometimes, a civilization reveals its true character during its darkest moments. The day Rome was sold was one of those moments. A day when greed nearly destroyed an empire. A day when loyalty was measured in coins. A day when the greatest civilization on earth stood on the edge of humiliation. And yet, from that humiliation emerged one of Rome's strongest rulers. Septimius Severus restored stability, strengthened the frontiers, expanded imperial authority. But he also transformed the empire into something new. An empire where the army stood above almost everything else. The consequences of that transformation would shape Roman history for centuries. So, was Severus the man who saved Rome? Or the man who unknowingly set it on a new and dangerous path? Perhaps he was both. Because history is rarely written in absolutes. It is written by the choices people make when everything seems about to collapse. And on one extraordinary day in AD 193, the Roman Empire learned that even the greatest civilization in the world could be bought. But only for a moment.